Tajikistan declares war on the hijab. Tajikistan, a predominantly Muslim country, has taken a controversial stance by passing a law banning the hijab in certain Islamic holiday celebrations, despite 96% of its population identifying as Muslim. President uh, Emomali Rahmon approved the bill, which labels the hijab a quote unquote alien garment and imposes hefty fines on the offenders. The legislation aimed at promoting a secular national identity also prohibits the practice of Eid, in where children seek money during Islamic festivals. Sulaiman Davlatzoda, head of religion committee, justified the ban on Idi as a measure to ensure proper education and the safety of children during Ramadan and Eid al-Adha. This move has sparked international criticism, with Corey Saylor of the Council on American-Islamic Relations, or CAIR for short, stating, quote, banning the hijab is a violation of religious freedom, and such bans on religious attire should have no place in any nation that respects the rights of its people. The ban reflects a growing trend among some Muslim majority countries in Central Asia and Eastern Europe to restrict Islamic garments in public spaces, contrasting sharply with countries like Iran and Afghanistan that mandate hijab use. So, this is very, very interesting because
This is a Muslim majority country, people. A Muslim majority country. Tajikistan is declaring war on hijab in a country with more than 90% of the population being Muslim.
um
Okay, but go on.
and I was very excited to talk about this, Armin, because behind the scenes, you have talked to me a little bit about how there is a push against Islamization in Tajikistan. And I was
Yes.
so interested in this, but there wasn't a lot being reported in English media for me to like really dig into and investigate. And then this came forward. So it gave me the perfect excuse to talk about it. So I would love to hear like what you have been aware of and what has been going on that has led you to like be aware of this trend, because based on the research I was doing for this news segment, it seems that there has been an unofficial kind of ban on hijab for many years now. Now, this is just kind of formalizing it. There has also been actions taken against men with beards and men being forced to shave their beards. Now, based on
Mhm.
what I was reading, it seems as if it's really just the men that have the big bushy beards, not, if it's very close to the face and groomed. And it's because my understanding is that it's seen as basically a foreign thing. It's seen as a foreign identity. It's seen essentially as more Arab than actually Tajik. And this is a push towards more national identity. And this is not only about hijab, but there has been other issues against women wearing like mini skirts, for example. Like, that is seen as against national identity. And they want to push towards promoting a Tajik dress and Tajik national dress. Now, what that actually means is up to interpretation. Um, but this is a push towards a national secular identity. So I would love, love, love to hear about what you know about this, Armin.
Yeah, so there has been a growing concern with Islamization in Tajikistan, especially because Tajikistan's government think that this is a major source of uh, foreign threats to their countries. They have seen how countries like Islamic Republic of Iran and other countries use Islam as a way to use the country's political and freedom of speech or freedom of religion, and different other institutions to come culturally into the country, change the demographic, change the voter base, get some political power, and influence the country in a way that that country becomes they have leverage. So, for example, if the Islamic Republic of Iran, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, or other countries, if they want to have in the same way that the Chinese government uses the Confucianist centers, and try to use them or try to use TikTok or other tools, or for example, in the same way that Russia uses RT or their other media to try to have leverage in other countries' way of thinking or their culture so that they could change their politics. Islamic countries use Islam as a way to be able to have leverage over the opinions of the citizens of those countries and change their politics. In fact, Tajikistan is very, very concerned about Shia centers, Shia in Tajikistan as a way for the Islamic Republic of Iran trying to gain influence, right? And basically, what Tajikistan is doing is what Reza Shah and Mohammad Reza Shah were trying to do with Iran. There is the Iranian culture, and then there is Islamic culture. And Reza Shah, more effectively than Mohammad Reza Shah, for example, was trying to um, you know bring back, re-establish Iran's culture at the expense of the Islamic culture, because the fact and Muhammad Reza Shah did that also with, you saw the videos I sent you when it comes to the whole uh, demonstrations right next to the Cyrus the Great's tomb, and those, the 5,000. Anyways, I'm not gonna get into the details, but again, this is a battle of cultures, and countries like Tajikistan, they think like the Islamic culture is something that is foreign to this land, that is being brought by other places. What is natural, what belongs to this land is basically the Tajik culture, and they are not only fighting against everything that is Islamic or looks like Islamic, but they're also promoting their own dress code, right? Their own way of. If I show you, like for example, what Tajik women look like, and what they wear, their traditional clothes is very colorful. It's very, you can see that this is something very different from what Islam wants to promote. And basically, I think they looked at, if you look at other countries like Afghanistan before and after Islamism taking over the entire country, you could see, like for example, Afghan women used to wear such their own custom traditions that used to be custom clothes that used to be so colorful, so bright, so beautiful, so alive, and then now, if you look, you can see that if Afghanistan is ruined right now, is partly because they don't come with force at the beginning. They don't come with, you know everything that ruins the country so obviously at the beginning. At first, it's an ideological takeover, and Tajikistan is attempting to not let it get to the part where they have to fight Islam more aggressively. They're trying to make sure the phase one doesn't happen, like the Meccan phase doesn't happen, so that they don't have to fight the Medina phase. Right? Tajikistan is basically looking at Pakistan, for example. India used to not be Islamic, and now if you look at the part of India that became Pakistan, and now you could compare Pakistan with India, what was this? At first this was an ideological takeover, right? And look at what's happening in Europe right now. Tajikistan is doing something that many people want to see happen in Europe, because they know if they let a cultural or an ideological attempt at threatening your country is phase one. Eventually, they want to do something a lot more direct. And if you look at what's happening in Europe right now, you could see why they might be very concerned. And again, they have seen, they know the Islamic Republic of Iran. They know the attempts that they're actually directly. They know their plans. They know that when they're spreading Islam in other countries, they have actually uh, a plan. Like, this is not just because, like, out of their attempts to just like, oh, it's good for people to be familiar with Islam, and it's good people for us. This is just our religious duty to make people introduce people to Islam. This is actually a political attempt. In the same way that when China opens Confucianist centers in other countries, this is not just like, oh, for tourism, for introducing people to Chinese cultures. This is a political move. This is a political attempt. It's an attack. This is what these mosques are. This is what these Hosseinias are. And Tajikistan is like trying to deal with this problem aggressively. What do you think about all of this, by the way, Susie? Also have something I could read that I just went and got
I mean, we
about
should be
the.
under no delusion that Tajikistan is not controlled by an authoritarian dictatorial regime. Like, let's be
Right.
clear.
Right. Right. Right.
That's important to acknowledge. So I was trying to do a little bit of investigating by poking around the Tajik language version of Radio Free Europe. And of course Google Translate can only get you so far. But part of what I understand is that it's not, based on some reporting, it doesn't even seem like it's entirely all hijab, or maybe this was only under when it was kind of an unofficial thing, but it was some forms of hijab which were seen as not Tajik styles of hijab. And then also it was seen as a warning sign if a woman was wearing a black hijab specifically, which I thought was interesting. Um, and then again, what I mentioned about people who are being heavily bearded as also being seen as a warning sign. Um, I think one thing that we need to be clear about is that historically moves like this haven't really worked. So there are many things that, for example, we really like Ataturk for. There are things that we like Reza Shah for, but in Mohammad Reza Shah. But Armin, you've repeatedly and consistently criticized their unilateral moves to ban hijab as ineffective and, in fact, fueling persecutory delusion
Well,
and
actually, I changed
persecution
my mind on
complex.
that, because if you actually go look at what Reza Shah did, he didn't ban the hijab. That's a lie that I believed from the Islamic Republic. What they actually did is they banned the burqa, what Reza Shah did, and he also banned the hijab in only specific places, not the entirety of the country. It was more closer to what France is doing, like not completely. There are some parts that might be a little bit of a overreach, but for that time, it wasn't like compared to other people. Reza Shah wasn't doing anything that much aggressive, but it's closer to what France is doing right now. It wasn't like people were having their hijab in most of Iran during Reza Shah's time as in most of the country. So I think what we heard about what Reza Shah did in banning the hijab was an exaggeration of what he actually did, right? So when they're saying in here, I want to be able to be fair. I don't like government overreach. I don't like government telling people what they can and what they cannot wear. Everything I said was not a normative, it was a descriptive explanation of what's happening, right? I'm saying what they think. um, for me to be able to judge whether this is a government overreach or this is fair, I have to ask, like, what are they banning? Like, how are they exactly, like, where is this ban? Like, women cannot walk with hijab in the streets. How far are they going with this? Can you go into details? Like, any hijab
Well,
anywhere in Tajikistan, walking the streets is illegal.
one second. Let me find my better source on this. Sorry, it's loading.
I'm
Mm,
trying to figure this out as well. By the way, while you do that, let me show people some images of what Tajiks look. They celebrate the Nowruz. Did you know? This is what
I do, because
Tajikistan and Iran.
when the my city hall had a Nowruz celebration, I
Right.
went to the city hall and it was like a lot of Persians there, a lot of Iranians, but then there was a heavy presence of Uzbeks and Tajiks there. It was very interesting. I'm like, I
Yeah.
actually didn't know my city had a population of Tajiks and Uzbeks. But
Yeah.
this is a side note, but I am obsessed with Uzbek um textile tradition. It is one of the most beautiful I have ever seen in the entire world, which obviously has a heavy influence on Tajik um, textile tradition, which you can see here. The Suzani technique is so cool. I'm obsessed with it. The ikat dyeing technique, let me shut up. I'm a little bit of a textile nerd.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 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 let me just, yeah, don't get into so much. I just wanted to mention this is their actual culture. this is what the government is trying to preserve, and they think that this is what they will lose if they don't fight back against Islamization. And they are, I mean, I don't know, we could talk about whether their methodology is correct or not, but their concerns is pretty accurate. I mean, like I can see why they're concerned. Okay, this is what they're trying to preserve. I mean, if you go look at what happened to Afghanistan and Iran before and after, you'll see why these concerns are legitimate, right? But did you
Oh,
find
by the
anything
way,
regarding how
apparently
far?
some Islamic clerics in Afghanistan declared a excuse me, a jihad because of this. Just FYI.
Mhm. So, wow, it seems like they went on with a full ban based on what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm
The,
based on my
the
familiarity, I haven't
complete
seen anything saying that it's in specific areas or only for government officials doing government business or anything like that.
The law passed by the Tajikistan parliament in June 2024 imposes a complete ban on the wearing of hijabs. This is more than France.
Yeah,
They went more, they went more anti-Islamic than France in a country with 96% Muslims.
yeah.
Um
Some people are saying that this
so
is just a hangover from kind of a Soviet era.
wow, okay, look at it. This includes a prohibition on importing, selling, or promoting hijab. Okay, this is a lot more aggressive than I'm wearing hijabs in public spaces. So you can't even promote the hijab. Okay, this is too far. This is definitely too far. This is, guys, when you go more anti-hijab than France, then you have gone too far. Okay? I liked if when it comes to secularism or laïcité and hijab and everything, I like the French model. I think when you go more than France, you've gone too far.
Well, Armin, I don't know what you were expecting from a totalitarian dictator. Like,
Okay, but okay, well, totalitarians usually are concerned with the opinions of their population, because you cannot be, just because you're a dictator, that doesn't mean you're immune completely from the opinions of your. How is this being received in Tajikistan? I wonder. This is
well, it's very
insanely.
hard to get reporting out of there.
So, penalties for violating the ban. The law imposes the following penalties for violating the hijab ban: individual fines up to $747. Legal entities are get fined up to $3,724. Government officials and religious authorities fines up to $5,400 and $5,700 respectively. Rationale behind the ban: the Tajikistan government views the hijab as foreign clothing that is incompatible with Tajik national culture and identity. President Rahmon has been campaigning against the hijab since 2015, citing concerns about Islamic extremism and the need to maintain the country's secular character. Okay, so you're saying it's totalitarian. He's the president. Are you calling their elections fake? Like, people voted for this guy. Are they? Do they have like actual elections? Like, how is he a totalitarian if people have voted for him? And how does a
Okay, look,
person who has a
I'm no
campaign against?
expert.
Here's a question.
Based on my
Here's another thing.
understanding of what happens
Let
in
me finish my
Tajikistan,
question
it
first.
does not seem like a free society.
Okay, how
Come on.
does a person who has campaigned against hijab get elected as president in a country with 96% Muslim? Can you explain that to me? You know what? I have to get into the.
Again, based on my understanding, these are not free and fair elections.
I need to get. This is so bizarre. I need to get to the bottom of this. Let me see. Well, I need to. What the hell? Oh, okay. Can you read some of the chats on what people are people against this, or is there a community supporting Tajikistan's government on this or against it? What
Well, I
are they
mean, I
saying?
don't support their government in general. Let's be
No,
clear.
support this specific, not their government, this specific position, this
Yeah.
specific thing.
So
As our community, yeah.
earlier in the chat, Wikar was saying, I don't agree with this being good news because we were like, oh, some good news, blah, blah, blah. I'm pretty sure we
Well, I
should
will give
force
you the good
women to
part of it.
wear or not wear garments. That should be the woman's choice. Let's be clear. We are here for free choice at Atheist Republic. When we were referring to good news, we were talking about the fact that all the stories we've talked about today have been quite dark and depressing. And this is the only story that does not involve someone being murdered or abused. So in our book, that's good news. Um, Also, it's very interesting. Yusuf Dumphy sent a super chat saying, "Is Tajikistan trying to be more culturally ironic?"
Ironic. Well, that would be. I wouldn't like that. I don't like that language because that would suggest that their actual Tajikistan's actual culture is not their own, and it belongs to another foreign country. I don't like. I do think that they're
No,
so they have both Zoroastrian roots.
yeah,
So
that's what they
Iran's
mean. Like
culture has.
ironic is more than a national identity. It refers to like a shared historic group of people or a phenotype, even like an ironic group of languages is a thing. I think that's what he's referring to. Like I refer
But can
to
we refer to it as Zoroastrian so that we don't, given how Tajikistan seems to be sensitive about foreign influence, maybe the culture that they are trying to highlight to become more of their own nation? Because part of this sensitivity against Islamism is Iranian influence. So if you try to the culture that they are um, you trying to highlight to make sure that they are their own independent country, if you attribute that to Iran as well, I don't think that will work very well for them. Maybe call it Zoroastrian rather than Iranic, right? um
and
okay, so
John Bundock is sent another super chat saying employment division versus Smith is good and relevant to me. Oh, I'm
all right,
familiar with this case. Let me remind myself what this is about.
so let me give you some highlights about my research. Okay, the Tajikistan government led by President Rahmon has been actively promoting a secular Tajik national identity over religious Islamic one. This is seen as a way to counter the threat of Islamic extremism and maintain stability in the country. Tajikistan experienced a brutal civil war in the 1990s between the secular forces and the Islamist group. This has made the government wary of any public displays of religiosity, which it views as potential precursor to political instability. Tajikistan borders Afghanistan and Iran, both of which have significant Islamist influence. The government is concerned about the spread of radical Islam from these neighbors and is using the hijab ban as a way to assert its control. President Rahmoon has been in power since 1994 and has systematically marginalized or banned Islamist political parties. The hijab ban is part of his broader effort to cement his authoritarian rule. Okay, so you're right about this guy being authoritarian and eliminate potential sources of opposition. For many Tajik voters, okay, so this is why voters why would people in Tajikistan accept this given that they're Muslim? So for many Tajik voters, economic development, stability, and security may be more pressing concerns than religious freedoms. Okay, as long as the government can deliver on these priorities, some may be willing to overlook restrictions on religious expression. Oh, okay. That's very interesting. But about the elections not being free and fair, you are correct about that. The government has cracked down on opposition parties and activists, imprisoning or intimidating political opponents. This undermines freedom of association and expression. The only genuine opposition candidate, with somebody which I cannot pronounce his name, Bobonazura, I don't know, was forced to drop out of the 2013 presidential election due to pressure from the authorities. International election observers have never judged a presidential or parliamentary election in Tajikistan as free and fair. The government is accused of rigging elections and putting political and financial pressure on opposition parties. Voters expressed little enthusiasm for elections, with one saying, "My vote doesn't make a difference. We already know who will win." This suggests a lack of genuine competition. The main opposition is Islamic. The main opposition, which is the Islamic Renaissance Party, was banned as a terrorist organization in 2015, leaving the Social Democratic Party as the only real opposition group. Okay, that gives us a lot of context. What do you think? Yeah. Oh, by the way, let me tell you the good part of this, because people are like, this is not good news. You guys are for free speech. You guys are anti-tyranny. Why do you support this? Okay, so this regime is
Do you
bad.
support
This
this?
government is bad. No, I don't. I'm just
Okay.
gonna give you a silver lining. I'm gonna give you a silver lining. Okay. Um, this regime is. I'm against this regime based on what I just read. Um, Here's the thing: as Iranians, let me tell you why I was more hopeful with this. Okay, because a lot of Iranians are extremely anti-Islamic, and a lot of Iranians constantly show give us good news from Tajikistan, right? So they show us how much they celebrate their ancient culture, their Zoroastrian heritage, their other cultural heritage, how Islamism is on the downturn in Tajikistan, and there's so many videos coming out of Tajikistan that gets around with among Iranian people. They're like, "Oh my God, wish this was happening in Iran. Look how the Iran could have been if we allowed the things that are happening in Tajikistan happening in Iran." So a lot of Iranians share so many good like celebratory videos of things happening in Tajikistan. As an Iranian myself who follows Iranian social media, I have been influenced by that, and I was a little bit more optimistic about Tajikistan until today. Now that I read all that context, okay. I'm against this authoritarian regime. I'm against this law. However, just a bit of a silver lining. This normalizes for other more sane countries in Europe, if they want to take other approaches against Islamic takeover, given that now we have an a country that is a majority Muslim, taking such an extreme position, at least it helps taking less radical positions more seem less extreme. Do you know what I mean? Like France's, for example, if other European countries want to take a bit harsher positions against Islamism, if we have this as a reference as something too far, but as a point of comparison, we can use it to normalize other positions that are sane, but is seen by society as extreme. Does that make sense? Is that not a
I
good
don't
silver
know if
lining?
like having your point of comparison being authoritarian dictator is gonna be a good
No, no, no,
sign.
not as we were gonna do that. As in, like, well, we're not gonna do that. That is too extreme. You know what I mean? Like, so by saying, like, by calling it as too extreme and saying, look, this is how far we should go, right? So, for example, we could say, I know, banning hijab in school, for example, that makes sense. You're like, oh no, that's too extreme. Because if you didn't have that, you will be, if you're the most extreme in suggestion, you are seen as a radical. But now, if you're concerned, if you are seen as a radical, but you call out other people as radical that have gone farther than you are seen less of a radical when you call some other people out as radicals that have gone farther away than you. Does that make sense? They're like, I'm not the radical. They're the
Yeah.
radical. This is actually the correct position. Yeah, somebody's saying like, I think, yeah, don't go full Tajikistan. Like we haven't gone full Tajikistan, okay? So don't call us radical. We haven't gone as far as Tajikistan. That's what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Greeneck is saying exactly, Armin, we should be less afraid of the subject because Tajikistan shows that it's a subject that the whole world is wrestling with.
Yes, yes, yes. And
Well, I think the better
if a
example is
country,
don't go don't go full Xinjiang. Don't, you know,
yeah.
don't go full
But also,
CCP. That's
here's
even
the
more
thing. But
extreme.
I also don't want to completely dismiss the concern of the government. So again, I'm against this government because they're authoritarian. I'm against them because they're telling their citizens what to wear. They're also telling their citizens not to promote the hijab, so they're limiting people's freedom of speech. That's insane. Like, not only you can't wear the hijab, you cannot even go and say like, well, we should be able to wear the hijab. You can't even say that because that would be the promotion of hijab. So that's all insane. Obviously, that's all insane. But there's a part of their position that I don't want to completely dismiss everything that they're saying, because the part that they're concerned about Islamism taking over their country, the concern is legitimate. The solution is not correct, but let's not dismiss that they have a valid concern. I mean, I know the Islamic Republic of Iran is definitely attempting to use Islamic centers in Tajikistan to exert its political influence in Tajikistan. I know for a fact that that's what they're trying to do. So the concern is correct.
Oh, I mean, we're under no delusions about the dangers of Islamism. I think we can all agree on that.
Right.
Um, okay, let's see. Oh, we got a few more super chats. Oh, Mithras Revisited gifted 5 Atheist Republic memberships to people. That's awesome. Thank you, Mithras. Which is a good reminder. If
Thank
you
you.
want to be a member, come join us on YouTube and go in the button down below, the join button. You can come become a member, support our work, support everything we do, and you get access to our exclusive member emojis and also a bunch of exclusive members only content that Armin has put out, which is actually an even better reminder because right now we have over 800 people watching, but about 600 of them are on Twitter. So if you are watching this on Twitter, come join us on YouTube, Atheist Republic channel, go subscribe, go click the notification bell, like this stream. Things are much better on the YouTube side of things because you can engage in the live chat. We can respond to you. You can become a member, become part of the community. If there's other ways that you want to engage with the community, you can join our Discord. Link is in the description in our YouTube video. And also, thank you to everyone who is supporting our work. People that support us financially, if you're interested in doing that to make sure that we can keep putting out this content that apparently a lot of people find valuable, you can support us on PayPal. Again, link is in the description on YouTube, on Patreon, super chats. Many other ways to make our work continue. And or like we said, we promote financial stability, freedom, and independence. Okay, that should always come first. So if you are not able to support financially, all you have to do is hit that like, hit that subscribe, feed that algorithm, leave a comment, because there is only one God that we pray to, Armin, and that is the YouTube algorithm God. And every day we recognize its glory and its splendor. So please help us feed that algorithm, help us
Out of fear.
tithe. Yes. Put the fear of the algorithm gods into you. Help us feed the algorithm. Leave a comment. Tell us what your favorite segment was this week, what you agreed with, what you disagreed with. And thank you for being part of this community. We
Yeah.
got a few more super chats to close out the show. John gave 2 super chats saying, "What should Tajiks do? Ask the Baltics and Ukrainians." And also, thought on the code of personal status in Tunisia. Well, I'm not familiar with this. Let's do a quick look. Code of Personal Status, Tunisia. Okay. The Code of Personal Status in Tunisia is a series of progressive Tunisian laws aiming at the institution of equality between men and women in a number of areas. It was promulgated by the Bailical Decree in 1956 and came into effect in 1957. Applies to Muslim Tunisians only. This
We
is
don't know much about this to be able to
yeah, I
comment
can't
on it.
give any
You have to do
comment when
some
this is my
research.
first time hearing about this.
Yeah.
The code outlawed polygamy, set minimum ages for marriage, required mutual consent for
Seems
marriage,
o-
and allowed either spouse to file for divorce in a secular court.
Seems like a step in the right direction, but we don't like see based on what I've heard so far. Seems like pretty good.
Yeah,
But
seems
again,
like a few motions to liberalize and promote individual rights, specifically the individual liberty of women.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Did it make Islamists angry? If it did, then it's probably a good. Then it's probably that's how you could judge. If it made Islamists in Tunisia angry, it's probably a good law.
Okay. Oh, we got a super chat from Unicorn. Thank you. Saying as always, thanks as always, Susan Armin. Thank you, Unicorn. Thank you for joining us. And also celebrating their membership for 8 months. Thank you for supporting us and saying to the YouTube algorithm gods. Yes. Thank you to the YouTube algorithm gods, for they have shown us mercy. Actually, let's see if they showed us mercy. Armin, are we still monetized?
Oh. Yeah, I can check. Refresh the
Everyone,
page.
everyone, let us
Yes, we are.
raise.
Amazing. We have to. Yes. 3 hours into the show, we're still
They
monetized.
truly are merciful.
But
The
to be
algorithm
clear,
gods
guys,
have
this
been
is
merciful to us once
we
again.
used to be demonetized like at least halfway into the show, but now we still get demonetized, but for some reason right after the show is over. So throughout the show we're not demonetized. Once the show is over, few minutes after the show is over, we're almost guaranteed to be demonetized. But the good news is that I appeal it and we get monetized. Usually we get monetized again, but by then we have lost most of it. It's better than before. It's not ideal given that we always get demonetized after the show, but it's so much better than before. Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.